What's on your evil mind?
Hold your insulting tongue and mock my words well.
How about this rumor that you are really Iron Man, Mr. Stark?
Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. And why on earth does it look like I froze? God damn it.
You're still moving to me.
Well, not on the video, I'm not. But I'll take care of that as soon as we get to the intros. I am your host, Roddykat, and you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can also find me at CBCaps on Instagram. And the sound effects and voice you just heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, represents BK to the fullest. 1agent_70.
What's up, everybody? Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? And as an extra shot, no! Free to Brooklyn! All day, every day.
Exactly. Actually, let me do this. Maybe this will work. There we go. I don't know if that actually worked or not. Anyway.
Live podcasting, everybody.
Yeah, no. No, it don't look like it did. Son of a biscuit. So, we're just going to continue. Yes, so you can find this here podcast on the Coast of the Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find this here podcast on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, Spotify, or the Ghost Lizard Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. And yes, folks, we are back. We are here, and something else I forgot to do, but that's fine. We're going to do this on the fly, too. Haha! Everything on the fly, folks. Boy, if y'all heard the rough cut of the last week's episode, I think it was, or week before last, when we had all the issues that the audio version didn't hear. It's fun times. Unless you watch the video version, but it's fine. Which, by the way, the video version, you can see us record every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. on the Coastal Podcast Networks. No, that's not true either. On the Click Nations YouTube channel, not Coastal Lizard channel, because that's a whole separate thing.
There it is.
Yeah, do feel free to join us. Sometimes it's cool. Sometimes we have a lot of issues, but we get through it some kind of way. Just like the Avengers. So yeah, we got a whole bunch of new releases this week, and we are going to start off with X-Men number 11.
Right, for multiple reasons this week, because this issue seems to have a twofold purpose, because the cover actually has a small banner at the bottom left corner that says Path to Ten of Swords on it, but at the same time also is an Empire tie-in, because there's an Empire banner at the top of the book as well, like a small logo. So it's, as we were actually discussing just before the show, a book that has a dual purpose. So one such purpose is to help lead into the Ten of Swords crossover, which is coming up very, very soon. In fact, the story opens with some of the younger members, some of the younger citizens of Krakoa running into a creepy guy from Arakko, aka the twin of Krakoa. And I know that Roddykat had something specific to say about the creepy guy from Arakko.
Oh yeah, so I got him in notes. Basically, it's like doesn't he remind you of someone from another Hickman run series from a couple of years ago?
A little bit. I mean, part of it is the Lainell Francis Yu art, but I definitely think that this character is reminiscent of somebody from that run.
whose name I can't, because it's a specific dude with the horns, and I can't remember his name. Otherwise, and I should have looked it up.
Oh, you mean with the guy with like the alternating horns?
I believe so. Yeah.
Big muscular guy though. This is like a really skinny.
True,
You
but I
know.
mean, because it's like a kid version of that dude without the horns.
Right. I understand. They
But
actually
yeah.
did a Marvel Legends of that guy. I have it.
Oh, did yeah. Oh, I didn't know they made a Legend of that dude. I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, just that one guy. Right, just that one guy. It was a very kind of weird inclusion. But anyway,
Yeah.
in addition to this lead into Ten of Swords, we also get, as I mentioned earlier, the X-Men and Krakoa dealing with an incursion from the Kotati because of the events of the last several issues.
I see what you did there.
Oh yeah, incursion, of course. Words matter, folks. We make our word choices count around here.
Indeed. By the way, well, we've already said that. Like, if you hadn't read Hickman's run of Avengers from a couple of years back, that was leading into like Infinity and Secret Wars. You should, or from a few years back, you should. It's really good.
Right.
But
it feels like it was yesterday, folks. That's why we're having trouble.
I know,
you
right?
know, with time or a sense of time there.
Yeah. Time is a thing. But yeah, so it's
What was it, that Stone Temple Pilot song? Time to take. I have no idea why that popped into my head as soon as you said that. I was like, oh my goodness.
I was going another way with it, but that works fine. That works great. That works absolutely great. But yeah, so the fact that this says Path to Ten of Swords, X of Swords on here, and that whole Araco bit is one thing, but the rest of the whole story is pretty much Empire all the time, because it deals with basically was that, I guess that was last issue when this happened, huh? When the Kotati tried to stage themselves from the moon, and,
Right.
And then they got wind of Krakoa, and which led into this, which we knew it was. So that's not a surprise. But this is when the Kotati tried to basically invade Krakoa, and the X-Men and the Krakoans are ready for them, because they've been attacked like what three times already. So
Right.
they pretty much got their stuff down at this point. Matter of fact, I think even Magic even says like, yeah, I hate to say this, but we're getting good at this.
Mm-hmm.
So
And it does help to have some of the biggest guns in the Marvel universe, you know, at your disposal, because who do they deploy? Magneto.
absolutely. And actually, and going on back to, so this was cool because it's like, yeah, so the whole thing is framed. So we're cutting from the Araco stuff, which I thought was a weird cut, because it was like, then it just goes into the story about wait, who was telling the story?
Exodus.
Thank you. Who was telling the story to some kids who weren't there when all of this happened, but he was basically recounting what happened to the kids, Krakoan folklore, but exactly, things actually real happened. So we get into the story, and Magneto comes into play, and we see him don his old. So here's what I have in my notes. So there's a couple of things. It was like they were talking about, there was a page that was talking about conjoined powers, and I was like, well, okay, I know this stuff got mentioned in Hoxpox because of the future stuff, so I wonder if this is where that starts up. So that's one thing. Two, also, it seems like the X-Men have been playing Marvel Ultimate Alliance, because I do love the way they kind of set up, as I said, the conjoined powers, the combo power usage in this issue with Magneto and Iceman and Magma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that thing was pretty cool. But the thing that I was going to talk about was the whole costume change thing, because Magneto was like, yeah, I'll even dress for the part. But I was thinking, like, you would think that the black suit would have been more appropriate than the old, hey, I'm evil suit. Or, excuse me, the classically I'm evil suit.
Mm-hmm.
In this case. But I guess to the Kotati, he's like, well, they are the enemy. So, I don't know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't, but that was just something I noticed. Because you could see at the beginning of the book, he had helmets for all three suits. So, he had all three suits just laid out there. But yeah, outside of that, like I thought the whole thing kind of came together pretty cool with, like I said, them using their combined powers and, you know, dealing with the Kotati, you know, and also some satellites that may have been unknown quantities, supposedly unknown quantities overhead. So it kind of killed a couple of books. I don't know if that's going to ever coming back, but you know, who knows at this point. But the whole issue was a pretty good Magneto. Like, I'm kind of surprised they didn't do this for Giant Size Magneto. I don't know what that story was, but if they had done,
you didn't read it? Giant Size Magneto was Magneto doing a favor for Emma Frost and going on an adventure and dealing with Namor.
Right. Okay. But if they had did this as opposed to that, and kind of just you know, broke it out a little bit more, that would still work. Because this feels like something that could have been in an annual, even though it was like mainline story because of what's going on in Empire or whatever the case may be. It's also weird because of that, but that's all, you know, that's a whole nother situation. But I enjoyed reading this book, and it was a pretty good read.
Right. The only thing I would add is that essentially this is Magneto's exploits turned into the stuff of Legend by Exodus with some strong Fatal Attractions vibes. Go read it and learn something, ladies and gentlemen. This is a storyline post Jim Lee on the X-Men. He's well into his time on Wildcats at Image when this story is out. But definitely, you will recognize that story as a story in which Wolverine gets his adamantium pulled out of his body by Magneto. So. Exodus was a member of Magneto's acolytes back then. Go back and read your history, or at least your comic book history, ladies and gentlemen.
Or, you know, the wiki's fine in certain cases, unless you just really, really want to read it. But sometimes, you know, that's probably a good enough read to actually, you know, go peep out on Marvel Unlimited or whatever the case may be. But that being the case, I think we've spent enough time on that one. So we're going to go into the obvious next step into this. Empire. Captain America #3. Let's say.
All right, Empire Captain America #3. This is the final issue in this spin-off miniseries. It's written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, who I learned this week because of his guest appearance on the Marvel Pull List that he is actually still an active duty member of the military.
Okay, that explains that then. Or I guess could explain that. Doesn't necessarily
exactly.
have to.
Helps. Right, exactly. Helps. You know, it helps with his writing, at least in this story. Although it seems that he has a penchant for horror, and my understanding is that he's also written some Marvel Zombie stuff. In any event, this story follows up on Cap and the Kree Skrull group that he is helping, that he's working with, and American forces. They are relocating to Mexico City because it seems that there's a paramount threat there, and the Kotati seem to be targeting a fault line that would cause lots of natural destruction should they tamper with it or tap into it in the form of seismic activity and earthquakes and what. So that's where we find ourselves at the beginning of the story, and Roddykat has a nice little commentary that takes us into the next step of the story.
Indeed, which says basically the Battle of Mexico City means a Cap speech, and also, yeah. So we were talking about this before the show. Isn't this where the Savage Avengers tie-in took place? And we come to find out that it absolutely was.
Right.
However, you know, it was kind of weird that, well, Venom and Conan, who were the crux of that story, are not in this, because we're assuming that happened before this took place, even though the Kotati was pretty much still here in both times.
Right.
So we're just going on the assumption that that was probably a staging group that Conan and Venom took out, but the Katana just happened to come back because, like I said, because they're weeds. So and just have to come back with something bigger and stronger. Although I want to say, actually, I don't know. I would have to go back and see. I don't think there was any mention of that. Like, I wonder if it did tie in, and they were kind of setting stages of this because of the whole Man of Earth thing. But I don't.
Awesome.
Yeah, but I don't remember. And I don't think so. So, but it was just kind of weird. It was like, yeah, well, you would think, those two people would have shown up given that this was still going on where they were.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's all. But overall, it was pretty good. Like I said, you get a good Cap speech, and that's kind of what you want out of this one, as he rallies the troops and saves the day.
Right. There's a couple of things I just wanted to add then. One, Ariel Olivetti's art is solid in this book. Definitely does a good job portraying all sorts of different aliens and Kotati. So it's definitely well done. I would also add that I read somewhere that this might be the refreshing of the Howling Commandos concept, and they actually do say the American soldiers that Cap works with here actually do kind of. Well, one of them gives a shout like, "Oh, we're the Howling Commandos." I'm like, "Oh, they might." Whoever posited that theory might be right.
Well, that dude's been doing that for the last couple of issues, though, because I went back and read the last couple of issues, and that particular dude who's been saying that has kind of been holding.
Oh,
yeah, he's been saying that a couple of different times. Because, matter of fact, when Cap first recruited them to go with him, he said that exact same thing. He was like, "Yeah, we're the Holly Commandos," because he's pretty much gung ho about working with Cap and all that. I thought actually he was gonna buy it because it seemed like the most enthusiastic person usually kind of gets it right up front because that's usually the red shirt or something. But apparently this guy stuck around, so.
Gotcha. Right, and we end up this issue with basically a message being relayed to Cap that something big is happening in Wakanda, and that's essentially where Empire 6 is going to kick off.
Right, which brings us to the other book this week, Empire Avengers #3. Which is the last book.
Leads into Empire #5.
Well, yeah, exactly. But it's we still, as we said earlier before the show, like we believed they were trying to catch up with the tie-in books before 6 comes out, which is probably why we haven't gotten 6 yet, and I believe we have established that we're getting that next week. But it also seems like that might not necessarily be true because of other reasons, or because of another reason, but hey, we're gonna work it out regardless. It's ended one way or another next week. I mean, excuse me, it's properly ending. It's still got a couple of tie-in stuff at the back end of it that's gonna happen.
But, right, I was about to say, I think those are technically epilogues.
They are.
To take the story forward. So, but in terms of the crossover proper, I think, or the limited series proper, it ends next week. But back to Empire Avengers #3. This is written by Jim Zub with art by Carlos Magno. We we essentially get a little bit of a flashback sequence at the beginning of the issue because of where we left off in the cliffhanger at the end of the last issue. That is, spoiler alert, Kazar, Kevin Plunder, getting run through with the ebony blade.
And I have, so I'm going to, we'll finish this out, and I will tell you my one little slight issue with this.
Okay.
But if you want to go ahead and continue.
Sure. So ultimately, there are two aspects to this story. The Plant Man aspect in Manhattan, in New York City, was never really played like a real threat. And I hate to be, to kind of poo-poo that.
Yeah, but it's true.
And exactly, Plant Man had decided that the Kotati were the allies he had always been looking for to achieve plant supremacy, and a small team of Avengers consisting of the Vision, Luke Cage, and an agent of Wakanda, Dr. Nemesis, basically take on Plant Man and his Kotati, his small cadre of Kotati troops, or his sprouts. But we again flash to another small group of Avengers consisting of Quicksilver, Wonder Man, and Mockingbird, trying to stop uh, a full on restarting of the Kree Skrull War amongst the Kree Skrull troops,
Yeah, pretty much.
in the middle of Mexico.
Which again, I mean, I know they probably weren't in Mexico City, but still, like,
Right.
this whole Cap thing was going on at the same time. Anyway,
Right. But the big story is in the caves beneath the Savage Land, or in the Savage Land, where a group of Avengers, including Black Knight, uh, 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 which one? Scarlet Witch.
Dr. Voodoo.
Yeah, exactly. Dr. Voodoo, and I think that's.
That's
that's
pretty much it.
the
And I mean,
yeah.
and Kazar and Chana's son Matt.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, wait, no, he wasn't. Yeah, because
And Man Thing.
well, yeah, but he was kind of on the other side of that for a minute. So
So essentially, this issue is dealing with fallout of Kazar uh, falling to the Ebony Blade and the emergency procedures that the Avengers put into play to try to save his life before he's permanently lost. Man Thing is essentially converted to the side of the Angels
or
against
back.
the Kotati,
Yeah.
and essentially the Kotati are held at bay until the Avengers are successful in reviving what is it, Lord Kevin Plunder?
Right.
I believe is
Yes.
his title.
That's yeah. That sounds right.
Right, and by putting and the means by which they save his life essentially puts him into further greater connection with the Savage Land, if he wasn't already connected to the Savage Land enough.
Right. They basically did the same thing they did with Shauna, who pretty much went through a similar process, probably the same process, but not necessarily. I don't know. The original story, I never did go back and read her, but we already established last time we talked about this that that was from a relatively recent Wolverine book.
Right.
But and it wasn't most. It was pretty much Shauna was like, I'm going to put Kazar in this water for for this to happen, while the Avengers were pretty much doing, trying to do whatever. So herein is
what
where
I'm going to say. Don't discount. Hold that thought. Don't discount the fact that it's the Ebony Blade and what technically.
right.
You
I
know,
was getting to
it's
that.
like a soul catcher sword.
Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
Oh yeah.
Soul
Yeah.
Stealer sword.
Yeah.
Actually,
The
that's the technical aspect of keeping his soul around while they heal his body.
which also, yeah, that part about the Ebony Blade doesn't really get talked about now. It almost felt like that's a new thing. It's not, but it kind of felt like, because when was the last time we even talked about the Ebony Blade, much less Black Knight in in any context, with the exception of that whole real world stuff. So but yeah,
You know
not
he's gonna get a push pre-Eternals.
of course.
So,
But yeah, but that aside, like, yeah, the being that whole thing was a catch-all for his soul, and the body was being healed up at the same time, and I guess it still didn't make a whole lot of sense personally, but like, all right, we'll run with
I'm
it.
not arguing.
Yeah, but it was like, all right, fine, this is what they ginned up for it, so fine. So yeah, so Kazar and Shauna are now connected, both connected to the Savage Land in the same way. Whether that's going to come back up, and they also worked out some issues during the course of that, because there was that whole, hey, you were with the Agents of Wakanda and just left me behind as I was trying to dealing with this new power, quote unquote, that I have, and so them two worked that out and renewed their love, or whatever the case may be, and all this happened. So my thing was this: the same thing that happened to Kazar pretty much is the same thing that happened to T'Challa in Empire proper. One of these people are still alive. We don't know although at the end of this,
He's.
I mean, you knew I was gonna go with
I
this.
know.
So one of them just has been brought back to life. The other ones, especially given what was said at the end of this issue, that's pointing towards Empire number 5. Someone's life is in flux potentially at this point, and that bothers me greatly. But again, we already see what happened. We saw what happened in 5. 6 is coming out next week. We'll see if that's going to actually stick, or I'm going to be, and I'm going to be thoroughly upset, or something's going to happen to kind of reverse that, or
Pretty much.
But that's pretty much Empire Avengers number 3. Yeah, it kind of felt like this whole thing was like, all right, it's pretty much the big picture is the Savage Land stuff, but these other 2 things were just on the side. Like, it's almost as if they had said, well, we're gonna do this another issue or 2, but we decided to cut it and just kind of focus on the Savage Land stuff, because it seems kind of pointless that they even had the other 2 teams just like, the other 2 teams were just doing their thing, but
It's kind of like the B and C storylines, really.
right.
Yeah. Imagine a TV show, right? And there's B and Z storylines in like a 3-episode arc.
Right.
They really just wanted to touch upon the fact that this is a worldwide thing. They really wanted to stress that this was a worldwide invasion. So they had teams of Avengers in different places. So
Sure,
I
but they
think
didn't necessarily have to do
the whole
that
point
because
of it, right? I think that was the whole point of it. I think it was, it was meant to be not throwaway stories, but at the same time, just to be the B and the C storyline, not to be primary for our reading purposes.
right. Yeah, but it still seemed kind of pointless, and I'm like,
yeah, actually, I'm not arguing with you, not in the least. Not in the least. I agree, but I think that was the whole point of what they were doing.
Yeah. That being said, though, we can push off from that because it is what it is. So, which means that I believe all of the tie-in issues have been wrapped up. I believe. Did you say we had one more next week, or
what's that?
Well, technically, that Fantastic Four next week is also.
Oh, you mean
a tie-in.
Titans?
Yeah.
Yeah, that Fantastic Four issue is going to be a tie-in. It's probably going to involve those kids.
Right.
So, we'll see. There's going to be some fallout from Empire. That we already know about the Avengers and the FF one-shots that are coming that will follow up on the conclusion of the Empire storyline. So, we're going to be getting some more Empire over the next couple of weeks at least, I think.
Right. Which also, speaking of that, the storyline with the kids, I feel like that's also something that felt like that could have had that probably felt like it could have been built up to something bigger than it is about it. But we don't know what's going to happen in the Fantastic Four issue, and we do know they're going to have things going.
Right.
Going forward
I say
that.
don't underestimate what they're going to do with those kids in that Fantastic Four book. I think that's where that story is going to play out.
Right, but it almost felt like they were kind of setting it up to where that's going to be a bigger issue in Empire, just in general.
Oh, right, in the proper miniseries.
But it's not that way, because otherwise they would have been doing more on it than they have been. So, but again, we'll see what happens next week. Moving right along. Oh, you saying something?
No, I said sure. Go on.
Okay. I guess we'll get one or two more in Amazing Spidey.
Sure.
Amazing Spider-Man number 47. So we still got the Sin Eater thing going on. And what we thought, pretty much what happened at the end of last issue is pretty much similar in a way to what happened in the original Sin Eater storyline from back in the day.
Right, it's a twist.
Yeah.
It's a twist on what happens to Betty Brant in the original Sin Eater storyline.
Right. and also the difference being in this case is that not only well, it pretty much happened in reverse because what we see is that the Sin Eater was just pretty much in the back of Nora Winter's car, but she was the one who shot. She shot first. She was Han in this case,
Right.
because some strange dude is in the back of my car and maybe trying to cost me. We don't know, or trying to kill me. We don't know. But come to find out that Sin Eater pretty much wants her to interview him so that he can get his side of the story out. And of course, she, being as opportunistic as she is, went with it, put the story out, and that's pretty much what we get, or put the interview out, and that's what we get from that. Although it was less of an interview and more of pretty much his treatise. Like this is pretty much his mission statement that he just gave out to the world, and and we see that kind of going on. But then we flip to Spidey and Carly talking about what I thought would have been already discussed in the last issue, and that's they're still there with Overdrive and what happened to him and Carly's version of the story. But we come to find out that all is not what it seemed to be going into this, because as Carly is telling his side of the story, her side of the story, excuse me, we find out that it wasn't Overdrive's state as of right now was not because of Sin Eater, but because of police shenanigans.
Right. I was gonna say his powerless state is because of
Correct.
Sin Eater, but what happened after he woke up happened off panel until we. It still happens off panel until it's revealed here in this story, and that was wild. That was like a really wild, kind of not a side story, but it was just kind of like not out of nowhere. Like, whoa, this is weird.
Right. Also, given in today's climate, this is kind of it. That whole part kind of was like, ooh, like it wasn't. I'm sure it wasn't meant to be, but it.
Right.
Just the
Because
timing of it was kind of
right. There might be more to it. Right. There might be more to it than we know, but it was just really, really, I was just like, wow, where is this coming from? That's really what it was to me.
right.
Like, where's this coming from? Like, like where's Spencer going with this? But then to compound that, there's some more kind of real world allegory going on in this, with the Sin Eaters call to arms to not necessarily anyone who feels they're supreme, but they're looking to cleanse sins. And what's funny about this is that there's definitely a supernatural bent. There's a supernatural bent to the Sin Eater story now, because we find out what actually happened to the powers that were hinted at being stolen in the last issue or two. But we find out for sure that this version of the Sin Eater is not only powered by some sort of mystical and or demonic power, but also has literally absorbed the Lethal Legion's power. So he's Whirlwind. I believe he's Grey Gargoyle.
Right. Yeah, because he
got
used that last
drives
issue.
power.
Yeah. No, I was saying he used Grey Gargoyle's power last issue.
Right, and the Living Laser.
Right.
So, it's interesting because the Sin Eater was never that much of a threat to Spidey on his own, and Spidey acknowledges this.
Right. No, he was just a dude with a shotgun.
Exactly. He was always just going after defenseless but guilty people in the original story. But in this issue and in this storyline, it's a much different Sin Eater that we're dealing with. And in his appeal to people who want to affect change by cleansing sins by any means that they feel they can, it's a real world allegory, I think, in this story.
Yeah. But yeah, Spidey gets knocked around because of Sin Eater's new power set, and and but instead of killing him, we find out that someone else has a purpose, which we know who that person is. Someone else has a purpose for Spidey that Cecina kind of hints around to. In fact, it was the person who brought Snyder back, as he says. To which, again, this is stuff we knew already, pretty much. The hows and the whys are, probably irrelevant at this point, but I'm sure we'll find them.
We'll get them.
Yeah, but like I said, at the end, instead of finishing off Spidey, who pretty much tells Spidey, like, yeah, somebody else got a plan for you, and this is just a start, and you'll find out at some point. But then we cut to Ravencroft, and where some inmates are starting to lose it, but we see that this is also a calculated message that is for Norman Osborn, who is watching over the cameras, and apparently I'm going to believe that we are led to believe that the same person who's pulling spider strings, this kindred person, is also the same person that might be sending this message to Norman Osborn.
Right. That is the direction we are being led in so far.
So, which is pretty much sounds like it's going to set up, I suspect, another version. Not even another version, but possibly Norman being the Goblin again at some point in this. And I feel like we've probably already seen shades of that in solicitors or whatever the case may be. And another conversation with Spidey.
Peril of reading solicitations, ladies and gentlemen.
Pretty much. But yeah, you can pretty much see what's coming on, unless there's a twist in here that we don't see, that that we're not seeing at this point, and that's fine. That's a thing. But yeah, the pieces are starting to slowly coming together, and I know Spencer was like, yeah, this is gonna be a whole big thing, and it's gonna go for a minute, so it's gonna take a while to get to wherever it's going, especially with the confrontation with Kindred and his or they are doing to Spidey. So, but yeah, that's pretty much that. I think we get a little bit more about Carly and her relationship with her dad, but I don't know if that's gonna come into play, or if that's just something that was on the side. There's a good chance that's probably something that's probably gonna come up again, but we don't know.
Right.
But yeah, there you go. Oh, there was that one other the one other thing I wanted to, I don't know if you noticed it, but there was a mention of from Snyder to Spidey talking about, you always feel like you're superior.
Well, yes, I did see that.
And now and I have in my notes, I'm like, no, superior was the other guy.
Right. I'm surprised Spidey didn't have a quip ready for that.
Exactly. And he's probably too shaken up at the time because he just got handed. So, but there's that. So that was Amazing Spider-Man number 47. If you want to pick out another book before we go into rapid fire.
Let's see what you read. Let's see what Roddykat read. Do you want to talk about you want to talk about FF Antithesis number 1?
Sure.
Fantastic Four Antithesis number 1. This is a story by Mark Waid with art for the first time on interiors for a Fantastic Four book. Art by one Neil Adams, a legend in his own mind, but more than likely a legend to most comic fans.
Yes.
They're both not, they can both apply.
They're not mutually exclusive. So. Yeah, I have all I will say before you go any further, I have a similar nitpick as I had with another book from last week that I thought was Mark Waid, but I don't think it was. But go ahead and continue.
I mean, honestly, I was focused upon the art because that was the main draw for me. Mm-hmm. But overall, the story is, it's an FF story, but kind of carries similar. It has echoes of the current Thor storyline, believe it or not, because of what happens to, or what is alleged to have happened to Galactus in this issue. Right. But it essentially involves the FF dealing with kind of a run-of-the-mill negative zone incursion. There I go again. with the use of the word incursion. Negative zone incursion on Earth with Annihilus, wreaking havoc in New York City, but the FF essentially repel him by throwing a stick, essentially throwing a stick away, and asking Annihilus to fetch the stick. I'm referring to is the cosmic control rod that essentially is the basis for Annihilus's great power. Um, Once that's taken care of, the FF are kind of left to their own devices. There's definitely a nice little interlude between Sue Storm and Sue Richards and Reed Richards, where Sue has to leave both Franklin and a very young Valeria at this time
Mm-hmm.
in the care of Agatha Harkness, while Ben and Johnny Storm are kind of pranking each other, or Johnny's setting up a prank on Ben Grimm.
Left to
There's
their own devices, as it were.
right. There's a really awkward looking panel with Ben Grimm having the biggest teeth that I've ever seen him drawn with. I mean, come on. Like I give Neil Adams a lot of credit on the art, but I'm just gonna focus on the story real quick, and then I'll make a quick comment on the art. Essentially, the FF have to deal with something coming in, hot and fat, like hot and heavy, basically, fast and furious. I'm using all of the quips here today, folks. Something is incoming into Earth's atmosphere, and the FF have to do their level best to try to divert it from impacting in or onto populated areas, and they succeed. And what they find is that a former ally is the person who is hurtling towards the Earth, and that is none other than the Silver Surfer. I did mention earlier that there is a rumor that something bad has happened to Galactus, and that is the reason why the Silver Surfer has come to seek the Fantastic Four's aid, and that is essentially the crux of this issue. It's the setup for this Antithesis limited series. My comment on the art is that I'm scrolling back to my notes very quickly. Just allow me a moment. Neil Adams' art in this issue, other than Ben Grimm's crazy teeth, is cleaner and more organized. Believe it or not, more organized than I've seen in a while, which is a credit to his inker Mark Farmer and the colors by the incredible Laura Martin. I'm comparing this to the Batman limited series that Neil Adams was working on within the last 2 years, that I found was just very difficult to read. It was very muddy. I feel like this art in this issue was very clean. It is very reminiscent of his prior work for Marvel. The panel layout was pretty well organized. The faces are a little wilder than they were in the past. I think that's part of Neil Adams' aging. His art not necessarily aging well. His pencil style, his penciling not really aging that well. I'm not sure where Wade is going here, but it might be worth following. You have any comments on this?
Not much. I was decided to say that. So yeah, I had a couple of them. Obviously, not even obviously, but the issues that I had with this was, given that, again, I've said this last time. Yes, Marvel sliding timeline being what it is, but there was that whole, hey, we're going to use speech that they clearly did not use at the time. Like Johnny was hashtagging and talking about memes, and I'm saying, like, I pretty much remember when Valeria was a baby, and that was not a thing. But again, sliding timeline being what it is. But I still dislike when they do that. It's annoying as heck. But also, it come to find out that Reed made the Star Wars program, apparently, because that whole thing with he had the satellites that were ready to repel like things coming into orbit, coming into the atmosphere. I was like, that's the Star Wars program, and Reed went ahead and did what we actually haven't done yet. And as far as that last part is concerned, where we kind of get the shades of the big bad and what is going on with Galactus, which, as Agent 70 said, it is mirroring what seems to be going on in current Thor. Being that this was set in the past, we know Galactus is probably all right, but and that's kind of weird. So it almost kind of hits like it's this is clearly a not necessarily, well, it's not clearly a what if, but it's like a what if or a side Elseworld story, or seemingly like with all of this, but that's not, that's not the case. Like, I'm not sure what I guess my point is, like, I'm not sure what they're doing with these whole classic times, but bringing up stuff that is probably going to play out later on. Like, I'm sure whoever this big bad is probably going to be somebody that's going to, have a turn in current books or whatever the case may be, and that's why they're introducing them here. But it's still kind of weird that they're doing this mess.
Maybe we'll see.
Yeah, but that's pretty much it.
I'm curious. Are you curious to pick up the next issue?
Kinda, because I want to see where they're going with this. Like, what's the end game with this? Because we know, like I said, it's not like we don't know that Galactus is alive, or whatever the case may be. So I don't know what else is supposed to come out here outside of introducing the big bad.
Right. All right. So, if that's it for Fantastic Four and Synthesis, I think I might just spin up the minigun for rapid fire.
Cool.
Here we go. All right. I think we've got a lot of books in common, though, so feel free to chime in.
Okay.
All right. Let's start with Arrow number 10. Essentially, this is an issue that sets up a team up with Iron Man, as Iron Man finds himself visiting Arrow's company to do some actual, honest to goodness business, but finds himself in the middle of was it Madame Wong agitating. We're getting a little bit more, 10 issues in, we're getting a little bit more of a background on Madame Wong and possibly Arrow's powers and the possible origination of their shared history. So, we'll see how that goes. I'm hesitant to try to explain it all right now because it seemed a little on the confusing side. I think we're going to get more information as we go forward, but that's essentially what happens in the story. Anything else?
No, that's pretty much it. This book, it's been a while since we've seen this issue, since we've seen this book. So the fact that it's back now is like, oh yeah, okay, great. And yeah, the whole Tony Stark and Arrow thing was kind of amusing, and I guess it was that. And there's also, with this book, the whole hey, part of this book is in the past, part of this book is in the present thing is still kind of confusing, but I'm not sure how much of that really plays out now. But we definitely get a little bit more of Madame Wong's backstory going into this that I'm sure that will play out in future issues.
Definitely, and we start to learn more about those crazy crystal towers.
Mm-hmm.
So and we'll see how that all fits together. But we definitely get a lot of exposition, honestly, and history on those in this issue. So if you've been curious about what those are, this is the issue to pick up. Next up for me is Batman 3 Jokers. This is a Black Label story. And how do I know it's a Black Label story without really looking at the cover? Is because the Red Hood curses in this book. It's so funny. There is an intriguing setup in this. Obviously, from the title, it posits that there are, or at least have been, 3 Jokers that have been active during the course of Batman's career, and it seems that at least 2 of them are working together in this story. So it's definitely an intriguing setup. The story definitely plays into the long history between the Jokers and the Bat family. So if you're not really a fan, you can actually pick this up and kind of get it. That's the best part. And if you are a longtime fan, or maybe even a lapsed Batman fan, which I sort of am, it does harken back to stuff from The Killing Joke, from Death in the Family, from lots of the older stories.
Yeah, I don't like the Three Jokers was the thing that was kind of business. Wasn't that stuff kind of brought up at the beginning of like Dark Knights Metal or something? I can't remember what event it was, but this is, well, the whole Doomsday Clock, the Watchmen thing. Like, didn't all of this
I
all that come up then, but never really did anything with that?
This is the follow up, I think.
Yeah,
Because remember, it took Doomsday Clock 2 years to come out.
true.
So
But I'm
it's
saying, but
taken
yeah, but
just a
in
long
yeah,
time.
but within all of that, like the Three Jokers were kind of introduced, but they never really did anything through it. Just kind of dropped it.
Exactly. The concept was introduced, and now we're finally getting the follow up on it. So that's where we are.
Hmm.
Next up is Daredevil Annual #1. Did you read this?
No.
All right. For people who have been reading Daredevil, Mike Murdock has become a thing. Literally and figuratively, he's become a thing. And his story literally gets a retcon in the comic book. It's literally a retcon in the comic book, and it is a pretty well told story. So, for anyone who is looking to see where the future stories of Daredevil might be going, this is a pretty pivotal annual to have. So, it might be worth it for you to read. Next up is Iron Man 2020 #6. Ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, I was not a believer at the beginning of this story, and I really haven't been picking this up as a personal, as part of my personal pull list. But this was a fun event. Dan Slott puts the toys mostly back in the box with some interesting changes in characters' respective status quo. Um, he also sets up some interesting possibilities for the future series by Christopher Cantwell and Cafu, which is coming soon. So, all in all, it was a somewhat tidy wrap up, but it's to be expected of a story that is leading into a literal brand new #1 and a soft reboot of the character and title. Next up for me is Philadelphia #7. This is a new story arc in the story of Philadelphia's vampires, which are now led by Abigail Adams. If you don't know why the second First Lady of the United States is a vampire and is leading a group of vampires in Philadelphia, read the first 6 issues of Philadelphia. It's pretty good. This story centers around her and the cops who are doing their best to stop these vampires. So it is a pretty solid jumping on point, but at the same time, I do recommend reading the first 6 issues. And last but not least, I believe Roddykat read this book. It's X Factor #2. The
Yep.
X Factor team is off to the Mojoverse to investigate another murder of a Krakoan citizen after we get the return heralded at the end of last issue. One, goodness, I can't remember her code name. Because for whatever reason, her real name, Jean Marie Bobier, comes into mind.
Aurora.
Aurora, thank you. Thank you. Because they keep referring to her as Jean Marie Bobier in the
Right.
book, and I'm just like, what the heck is her code name?
Well, they
I
did
forgot.
mention her. They did mention Aurora once, I think, like when she first got there or somewhere in there. But yeah, that pretty much was calling her by her government the whole time.
Yeah. So ultimately, not that this is gonna make me get the Alpha Flight Marvel Legends set anytime soon, but still,
That's been a running thing
the,
with in
the
the
pre-
background, folks.
yeah. No, I was gonna say it was a pretty interesting read. What do you have to say about X Factor #2, if anything?
Yeah, you pretty much covered it. That there was like yeah, like I said, the whole Mojo World thing was like, that's kind of something. But during that whole, whenever the Mojo's involved, it gets weird, and it surely was here. But it was kind of fun read, and of course, Aurora being shown around the house by the baby werewolf, and watching everything that's going on, because apparently the as Mojo World does do, everything is a live stream, so that whole thing has some amusing parts to it. So yeah, I'm still enjoying X Factor so far. So
Cool.
and I forgot North Star was married. But anyway.
Oh my goodness. I'm looking at a
Mhm.
shout out to Classic, who is posting personal pictures up. It's pretty funny. It's kind of how I remember him. Anyway, so that's it for me. What do you have on deck for your rapid fire?
Oh, I thought you had. Oh, we already talked about X-Men. Oops. Let me
Oh.
take that off of that. So, Aliens number 3 to continue the X corner. Did you read this? You didn't read this. I guess
I
you would have
skimmed
mentioned
it.
Yeah.
I skimmed it.
So there was a survive the experience in the roll call page, which I was like, that's new. But there's, and I said in my notes, there's a couple of good splash pages in this book, and basically, the team's not doing so well as they're going up against Madeline Pryor, the Goblin Queen, and she's like, y'all going to recognize the fact that I'm still here, that I'm an actual person and still here, which is her pretty much her whole monologue throughout the whole issue, and I guess somewhere in there she got Alex's way. While she's monologuing, like all I know is they kiss, and then all of a sudden he just was at her feet, and I'm like, okay, that's weird. But then the other part of this book is, oh well, yeah, and also we get her, we get her motivations for doing what she's doing, which is like I said, people keep forgetting about her, and she's basically going to strike against Sinister and the Krakoans with his old stuff, and that they will know that she's a real person and not to ignore her. Which I guess that's probably again another statement on her character in general. During the course of this last decade or so. But also on the other side of this, we get Psylocke establishing herself as the alpha, or I guess some would say reestablishing herself as the alpha of this team specifically. But and we also get a weird, because I even say in my notes, like, who's narrating the text pages, because the one text pages that basically brings that up is like that talks about. I thought Sinister was the one doing those text pages, but it doesn't seem like it, because basically it kind of goes on to say it's like, hey, Psylocke is basically, back in the day we gave Professor X a lot of cachet, but we knew Scott was the one leading the group, so that's the one we followed, and then it kind of goes into where we're assuming it's going to take it with this group, and that Psylocke is going to be the one taking over the leadership of this group, and that she's not a pawn of Sinister and that kind of stuff. So I was like, I'm who's doing the narration? Because I'm like, what was the purpose of bringing that up outside of just kind of putting that out there like that?
I mean, it makes me think that we should go back to the first 2 issues of the book, or maybe the first issue when this group is first sent on this mission, because it seemed like it was the Beast to me, just because of some of the things he said, especially referring to Professor X the way he did. But at the same time, it could be several. There's several candidates for the person making those notes.
Quite possibly, yeah. So anyway, and also they managed to sneak in a couple of probably as natural as it's going to get instances of Yes Queen with the KWEN, by the way, and not not the regular spelling of Queen. So I was like, okay, they clearly did that for a reason. But yeah, like I said, it's a pretty good read. Where's it going? We'll see. But yeah, it is what it is. And my last book is Teen Titans Annual number 2, which I kind of skimmed through before the show. And I'm going to also say Deathstroke's back, as there's sort of an intervention for Robin, including the Bat. And Damian is pretty much still within his own feelings about what happened to Alfred, which he doesn't really express, but we see here is in his thoughts. There's a fight between, well, it's not much of a fight, but there ends up being a fight with the Deathstroke, but that just kind of goes away. because Deathstroke's still alive because the team thought they had killed him, or Red Arrow specifically thought they'd killed him, and come to find out that's not true. And I guess you, if you haven't been reading Deathstroke's actual book, you probably find out what happened with that. But like I said, Batman shows up also, and him and the team try to intervene with how Robin is feeling right now, Damian Wayne, and there's a fight between Batman and Robin, which is not much of it's kind of a one-sided fight, and you see a side of Batman that you don't really see that often in this book coming out of this. But then at the end of it, Robin comes to some sort of a decision, and I guess goes his own way, let's just say. And that's where this annual. We already know Teen Titans is ending, so I'm assuming the rest of that's going to play out going into the end of the last chapter of this volume. And that, folks, is it for me. So now we can go to Clicks of the Week.
Clicks of the Week!
Oh, you know what? We didn't get anything from the fellas. Did we?
You know,
we
correct.
Surely did not. So while we're thinking, I'm just going to send this quick little note.
You are correct. I fell out of my habit this week. I recently been sending early, like, first calls for Clicks of the Week, so I didn't do that this week, and I apologize.
No, because I totally forgot to. We were too busy talking anyway. And I'm still kind of thinking about mine because there's actually, it's kind of a light week, but actually there's a couple of.
I mean, there's a couple of quality reads.
Yeah.
You know, nothing that like jumps out and like kind of, you know, forces you to pick it as your click of the week.
Right.
So
that arrow was actually kind of cute, you know, despite the way it went, you know.
So you know the proper music for this is. So we have to figure out a click of the week this week.
Yeah, I might end up rereading it a bit, and this is not necessarily the click, or I hadn't come down on it, but the Teen Titan one was like, like this is going to happen, so that's.
Mm-hmm.
I would say read that issue. Just kind of, you don't necessarily need to know about what's been going on in the book prior to this, because some of that's kind of gets told. Sure. But it kind of bears out a couple of things, you know, or at least what's going on with the group, and specifically Damian.
So I'm going to think out loud here.
Sure.
Amazing was actually halfway decent. Amazing Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
The art was a little, you know, hit and miss for me. It's someone I don't recognize. The artist isn't someone I recognize, but I thought the story overall was fairly strong. I thought that Batman 3 Jokers that did, as I said earlier, have an intriguing setup. Daredevil Annual #1 was really like a solid read as we kind of went through a literal retcon. We saw it happening on the pages before us. And last but not least is something I mentioned earlier. Iron Man 2020 #6 was just a fun event. I'm actually leaning towards it as click of the week simply because it's like the biggest dark horse candidate out there, because it's an event that none of us really paid much attention to, but I just enjoyed you know, the last couple of issues specifically because it was just really solid superhero work, and led to and you know and is leading to you know, a new relaunch for Iron Man and his cohort. So you know what? I am actually going to go with my dark horse candidate, Iron Man 2020 #6. Of all things, right?
Nice. Yeah, you've kind of been warming up on that one from the last couple of issues, so.
Absolutely.
And then, so for myself, I think I've pretty much landed on X-Men 11. Sure, why not?
Ah, okay.
Like I said, I kind of enjoyed it. Like I said, there was a whole like the video game references that I put out there aside, and it was actually a solid, a solid read. It's like it's not like earth shaking or anything. Well, I guess it was earth shaking thanks to Magma, but haha.
Oh no! Oh.
Read the issue and find out what he means by that. Uh, but yeah, it was a pretty good read. I enjoyed it. So that being the case, while we're probably still waiting for this. Oh wait, here we go.
That was me.
No, that was you. Well, if we get something from the other dude, probably either sleep or doing whatever business they're doing or whatever else shenanigans they're into. So if we get something from them later in the program, then we'll revisit it. But right now, let us get to some ad.
All right, so our first ad of the night is for Funko, Fun at First Sight. It is your home for exclusive collectibles such as their world-famous pop vinyl bobbleheads, apparel including t-shirts, hats, and socks, and brand merchandise including custom DIY pop figures, art books, and skateboards. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase when shopping at Funko. To place your first order with 10% off, and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcasts free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Funko link and place your order. When you get to the checkout, put in the offer code SHOP10 for your 10% off discount. Funko through cspn.us. Do it today. Now we get into the news.
Indeed, and as we do every week by this time, we start with the cinematic news because I am not messing with my camera stuff anymore because it's not going to work fine. Captain Marvel's original script killed off a major hero, although I guess hero is kind of a stretch in this case because I believe it was revealed. Yes, it reveals that actor Ben Mendelsohn reveals that he says his character Talos, the fan favorite lead Skrull, was originally set to die in the film, which we did see. That kind of, of course, I ain't surprised about that. But we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, Talos was supposed to die in the film, which we almost saw, but it didn't happen. And we just got word from Dirt saying that Batman 3 Jokers was his pick. Again, like I said, not surprising. Next up.
I was going to say, it's definitely not Dark Knight's death metal.
Excellent!
PCN underscore Dirt has definitely checked out on that stuff, so. Anyway, next up, Triple Frontier director J.C. Chandor is in talks to helm Sony's Spider-Man spin-off Kraven the Hunter movie. J.C. Chandor is in talks to helm the movie for Sony's universe of Marvel characters, Deadline reports. Though Morbius and Venom, Let There Be Carnage, are both postponed until 2021, Sony Pictures is not slowing down as it builds up its slate of Marvel hero movies. Go away, Sony! The studio recently confirmed the Madam Web movie is being directed by S.J. Clarkson, and Mark Guggenheim is on board to write Jackpot. Jackpot! Olivia Wilde is also reported to be directing a Spider-Woman movie for Sony, so the studio sure looks determined to catch up or cash in with their competitors in the MCU and DCEU. Okay.
Do we really need a Madam Web movie?
Listen, they're gonna milk it until they can't. So
I know, that's true. Okay, yeah, sure. Next up, though, some problematic news here. So, there was this article on IO9 that was an interview with Josh Boone, the director of the New Mutants movie, which is out, or which is coming out tomorrow, actually, as of this recording.
Exactly.
and there are places who said that they're not going to review it because they would have to send somebody to the theater, and they're not doing that, or blah 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 blah. But regardless, it will be out one way or the other tomorrow. Finally, after 20 years or 50 years, after 10,000 years, it's free. But regardless, Josh Boone was interviewed by IO9, and amongst other topics, the topic of the casting of Sunspot was brought up because there are more people than myself that was kind of had a problem with the light skinned Sunspot, and as I'm scrolling down to it here, I'm just gonna mention that it says the IO9 mentions the criticism about casting Henry Zaga to play Roberto, who is in the comics Afro-Brazilian, and none of those this isn't comic accurate folks did not say one word about this, by the way. And he answers the questions by saying this. Well, one, they asked him, do they get the criticism? He said, oh, do you understand where the criticism came from? And he says, you won't get an argument from me. It's like my goal was to cast a real Brazilian, and I saw 300 of myself, black, brown, lighter skinned. I saw every shade under the sun. There is there's very little punctuation in that. Oh yes, there is. It's just kind of hard to see. I saw every shade under the sun. It was the same case as Blue Hunt, who's playing Danny Moonstar. It's like we looked at 300 Native American people and people with very close ties to Native American community. My goal was to find the best actor who, because they've done so little work, was the least. Basically, he pulled I got the best man for the job.
Who was Brazilian, right? Which is like at least, the whatchamacallit, the I want to say the least evil of the two evils.
It gets worse. But so he goes on to say that he basically waxes, he glows about Henry, whatever the case may be. But he also says that I would have found someone who was darker skinned who exemplified what I needed, but it was never about the color of their skin for me. And then IO9 asked, did it not fit into your vision for Roberto's story in the film? And he says, I didn't care so much about the racism I heard about in Brazil about light skin versus dark skinned. To me, it was I wanted to represent Brazil in a positive way, and I wanted to find someone who seemed like he could look like a guy who's had a silver spoon in his mouth, who has a really rich dad, and Henry just exemplified all these things. So in this,
yikes.
Yeah, so he basically, he's basically saying, not only did he say the best man for the job was a lighter white skinned person, but he's basically is like, I didn't give a fuck about trying to find a dark skinned person who actually looks like more Brazilians, and the whole represent Brazil in a positive way. You had to get a light skinned Brazilian to do that, a light skinned person to do that. Like, there's so much bad about those two statements he's made, or those statements that he made in this. So he basically saying he didn't give a fuck. So, and then again, he goes on about
this poor movie.
Yeah, I'm sitting here like he's made some bad statements in the past with the whole movie thing, but this is just leaps and bounds, just terrible. Like,
all right. I mean, we're not risking we're not risking catching COVID to catch this movie in theaters, folks.
Absolutely not. Anyway, moving right along. So that's a thing to just go ahead and embrace that from this fool right now. Anyway, next up,
Keanu Reeves has revealed that he was never informed of directors Lana and Lily Wachowski's intent to make The Matrix a trans allegory. He states that he never spoke to Lily about that, and she never conveyed that to him. Reeves told Yahoo Entertainment. He thinks the Matrix films are profound, and he thinks that allegorically, a lot of people in different versions of the film can speak to that. And for Lily to come out and share that with us, I think is cool. Okay.
Yeah, so he was fine with it. So I don't know. I granted this feels like a non article,
Right.
and it pretty much is. But just I'm sure there are people that were thinking about that part about it for some reason. Anyway, next up, watch the first episode of. Wait, is this actually? Hold on, let me make sure that's. Yeah, okay, we're right. Yeah, we're good. Watch the first episode of Star Trek Lower Decks for free on YouTube. Yes, folks, that animated Star Trek show is on, or at least the first episode is on YouTube right now. If so, watch it if you care to. Next up.
All right. On Tuesday, Ben Cross, the English actor who starred in the 1981 Oscar-winning film Chariots of Fire and played Sarek in 2009's J.J. Abrams Star Trek reboot, died at the age of 72. Zachary Quinto, the actor who played Sarek's son Spock in Star Trek, took to Instagram to pay tribute to Cross. Quinto writes, so sorry to hear of the passing of Ben Cross. He played Spock's father, Sarek, in our first Star Trek movie, and among many other indelible roles, and he was always so incredibly thoughtful and generous and engaging. Okay. Blah, and he goes on to say he's, sending him and his family much love and light, and rest in peace.
Ding 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 ding
Yeah.
ding ding ding. Anyway, next up, the Flash showrunner won't rule out another Arrowverse DCEU crossover. So some folks might remember, or if you've seen it, I believe it was at the end of last season that Ezra Miller's Flash and Grant Gustin's Flash met each other on the show. To which I still have yet to see it, but I know it got brought up during DC FanDome because of what's probably coming up in a couple of things, a couple of articles. Anyway, so yeah, but it says here, I would love to see Grant appear somewhere in their version of the film. Say I said what? I have no idea what this. Okay, anyway, you know what? I'll give.
Like Foghorn Leghorn.
I know, right? That's how it's written here. I'm like, what? Huh? It is absolutely written. Y'all can see it for yourselves right there. I'm like, what is the world? What is going on here?
It's not because I've been having beer tonight along with the show. That actually is what. And Roddykat admitted that is exactly what he sounded like.
Yeah, that is exactly what it says here in the audio too. It says, say I said. Anyway, you know what? I'll give you a couple of weeks off easy now. Wallace said, so this is Eric Wallace, the Flash showrunner, talking, I guess. I don't know if they'll do it, but I'm putting it out here because I know Grant would be excited. I think he would have some fun. Also told Ezra with open arms, we would welcome him back. I would love to have him back for longer for a full episode of The Flash if we can somehow make it happen. So basically, he's saying, yeah, he's down to go either way with the Flash multiverse situation. I saw the clip on DC FanDome, and I had not seen it in real life yet, but or in the actual episode yet, but it's sure. I still have a problem with Ezra Miller, but that's a whole nother situation. Next up.
All right. Let's see. Where are we? Is it How the Flash season 7?
Yes.
All right. So it would seem that Elongated Man is about to leave Central City since the Flash's plan to deal with its Hartley Sawyer problem is to recast and write out Ralph Dibny. The character has been an important part of the show since joining Team Flash in season 4, but everything changed when Sawyer was fired over racist and misogynistic tweets that had resurfaced. Good riddance. So, okay.
So basically this article goes on to say what they could probably do in lieu of all of that happening with his character. So,
alrighty.
Yeah. Whether they do it or not, that's the whole. But it was probably kind of a speculation piece in part. But I think some stuff has kind of been going on already. Don't know. Next up, the Flash movie will establish the multiverse as DC's new cinematic bedrock. So, kind of going back to what I was saying with that other Flash story. So the Flash will explore multiple alternate realities during the course of its story. This is the Flash movie, particularly the universe of Michael Keaton's Batman. According to director Andy Muschietti, that approach will serve as the foundation for future films based on DC properties. So basically, like the animated Flashpoint did with the DC animated universe, I guess. The movie is a bit of a hinge in the sense that it presents a story that implies a unified universe where all the cinematic iterations that we've seen before are valid. Muschietti told Vanity Fair. It's inclusive in the sense that it's saying all that you've seen exists and everything that you will see exists in the same unified multiverse. Also worth pointing out that on the Flash TV show, they had the Crisis of Infinite Earths crossover, which, as we know from reading the actual story, supposedly unified all the multiverse into one universe. But again, with Ezra Miller's Flash kind of coming to the fold, that means that that's not the case. Or showing up on the show, that means that that's not the case. But also in comic books, that's also not the case. So there is that. So yeah, there you go. And they mentioned the TV show's crossover. So there you go. The Flash movie's pretty much doing what Flashpoint sounds like it's doing, or it did. Next.
All right, so during the Flash movie panel at DC FanDome, new concept art was revealed, offering fans their first glimpse at the new suit Ezra Miller's Barry Allen will sport in the long gestating film. That's one way to put it. The first piece of artwork showcases the suit itself, while the second actually puts it on Miller, who appears to be preparing to battle a group of armed goons alongside none other than Michael Keaton's Batman. Not only that, but director Andy Muschietti implies Barry's new suit is actually the Dark Knight's own handiwork. As you can see, it's more organic, he said, like it's been built from his friend Bruce Wayne this time.
Sure, and you can see, if you're looking at the article, you can see pictures of the silhouettes of the suit, which also looked like it could have been from the Justice League cartoon with the intro, and at least in a couple of instances. But yeah, there you go. Next up, guess what? Ben Affleck is returning as Batman in The Flash. And we also know that Michael Keaton is probably going to be there also because of, well, other things outside of what we just heard. But Ben Affleck is set to reprise his role as Batman in the upcoming film adaptation of The Flash. The actor has repeatedly denied interest in ever taking up the role again. According to Vanity Fair, Affleck has agreed to return as the Caped Crusader for one more movie. The Flash movie is being directed by Andy Muschietti. We already know that, who to use from. And it says here that Affleck is a very substantial part of the emotional impact of the movie. The interaction and the relationship between Barry and Affleck's Wayne will bring an emotional level that we haven't seen before, Muschietti said. It's Barry's movie, it's Barry's story, but the characters are more related than we think. They both lost their mothers to murder, and that's one of the emotional vessels of the movie. That's also Batman v Superman's whole crux. But anyway, and that's where the Affleck Batman kicks in. So they're pulling a Martha. No, I'm just kidding. Hopefully they're not doing that. Next up.
All right, as part of the lead up to DC FanDome, director Matt Reeves tweeted out an image of the new Batman logo, which features the Batman in blood red text set against a black background, and an image of the Bat emblem from Robert Pattinson's rugged Batsuit.
So during the DC FanDome, they also showed a picture, that one picture of Pattinson and the cowl. It's in red, and it looks totally like the Daredevil shots that you've seen from the Netflix Daredevil of him in the suit and being with the red light. And I made that joke, and I was like, let me pull this tweet from here right now, for somebody to make me serious, for somebody takes me serious. But if you had, so yeah, but it's definitely got a red and black vibe going on here, as you can see from the pictures. Next up, so yeah, here's the crux of the thing, folks. Trailers for the Batman, Wonder Woman, 1984, Suicide Squad, and a Suicide Squad featurette, and the teaser trailer for Black Adam and Shazam 2 all make the rounds at DC FanDome. So yeah, so DC FanDome, because basically almost all right off the bat, because I believe they started with that Gotham Knights. No, they did Wonder Woman first. They did the Wonder Woman trailer first, and then they went into a couple of video games news, which we'll get into later. And then during the course of the thing, the Batman trailer, the Suicide Squad, with the cast, which actually that part was kind of fun too, because basically it was James Gunn and the cast, and they had they were basically put into teams and was answering questions based on the comic. That was kind of fun, seeing them interact with each other. But we also got, which I guess is the next news. No, it's not the next news. We'll get to that in a second. Actually, we probably won't. So there was a whole... yeah, we probably will. Never mind. Next up. Sorry, folks.
That's no problem. Everyone's already figured out the Riddler's riddle in the Batman trailer. Love it. Two Bat fans, one of them a bona fide puzzle master, plowed through the Riddler's cryptogram hours after it was first shown in the Batman's trailer premiere on Saturday. Spoiler alert, the Riddler has weak riddle game unless we were meant to solve it quickly, in which case maybe the riddle's on us or something. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, during the course of the Batman... So what?
I said I won't spoil it for you guys.
No, but basically, as there was the Riddler's in it. Guess what? And there was a riddle that was going through the Batman teaser trailer, which is at the bottom of this article. You can see, or in it's in the show notes, folks. And people pretty much solved it because the internet is undefeated. Next up, DC clears up how the Batman, Joker, The Flash, and Justice League movies all will work together. Multiverse, folks. That's all you need to know. Next up.
James Gunn's Suicide Squad roster of villains unveiled in new teaser video. So director James Gunn took his time at DC Comics' FanDome to introduce the new Suicide Squad set to debut in Warner Brothers' The Suicide Squad. A roll call trailer for Suicide Squad sequel debuted at FanDome, and it included Idris Elba as Bloodsport, John Cena as Peacemaker, Jai Courtney as Captain Boomerang, Nathan Fillion as TDK, Pete Davidson as Blackguard, and many more. My response to all of those characters that I had no recognition for was, who?
Well, I mean, Jai Courtney was Captain Boomerang in the first one, so that was...
No, I said all of those I didn't. Yeah, I was about to say that's the caveat.
Yeah.
That's the caveat. So, I obviously recognize the ones from the first movie, and, Captain Boomerang's not exactly a minor character, so... Yeah. He's a featured member of, or at least different versions are featured members of the Flash's Rogues Gallery.
Yeah.
But, ultimately, Gunn also debuted a behind-the-scenes video that included some of the first footage from the Suicide Squad.
Did you watch it? Or any of it?
I did. It's interesting.
Yeah. So they're...
it looks like, and because we've seen what James Gunn can do with superhero stuff, that's why I think that whatever he turns out, even though I won't care anything about these characters, unlike with Guardians, where I actually already had a connection as a comic book reader to several of the characters that he chose to put on his Guardians team. I'm still probably going to benefit from the fact that Gunn is the director behind this story, behind the Suicide Squad movie.
Sure. Worth noting, Viola Davis is back as Amanda Waller. Michael Rooker, who also has worked with James Gunn on the aforementioned Guardians movie, is also back, and his brother Sean is also playing a character because
Diesel. Yeah, right, he's got to help his family out.
Yeah, basically. I don't know. Yeah, like you said, I don't know who this TDK person is. I have a vague idea of Peacemaker, but Blackguard. Yeah, it was like those King Shark's in there. Some of the folks you would know from Suicide Squad is notable in here. But yeah, some of those other people, and Pete Davidson being in anything just gets my craw. But I don't care for him that much either. But yeah, it looks like it might be fun, I guess. We'll probably end up watching it. Next up.
Eventually.
Yeah, eventually. The Rock's Black Adam teaser trailer reveals the superhero's backstory at DC FanDome. So yeah, there was the teaser trailer for the Rock's Black Adam movie. That was pretty much done in just like in animatics for the most part, and like a motion comic with the Rock doing narration on top, kind of. I don't want to say stilted, but I don't know. I'm not sure if he fully got the gravitas of Black Adam, but he's doing his thing, so I can't really. And apparently, along with the storyline that does get narrated throughout the thing, the Rock. Wait, it says the Rock enlisted fan artist Boss Logic to provide some excellent art to help tell the story. Okay, sure. So
I was about to, my understanding is that Jim Lee did the breakdowns for that, and Boss Logic did the art based off of those breakdowns.
right.
So
Yeah. So sure, there you go. But yeah, like I said, it's a thing. The teaser's right there in the story, and it was that. If you hadn't seen it from FanCon, you can go check it out in the show notes. Next up,
all right, next up, though the Black Adam standalone is still a ways away from beginning production, the film's creative team presented at FanDome a new look at its titular star at this year at FanDome, and he brought along a few friends. Though we already knew that Noah Centineo was going to play Atom Smasher in the film, The Rock revealed that they'll be joined by Hawkman, Dr. Fate, and Cyclone to form the JSA, the Justice Society of America. And there's some images that you can see.
yep, there sure is, and pretty much all those images came out of that teaser trailer, the aforementioned teaser trailer. Shazam 2 reveals its full title and a surprising cast member. So yeah, the Shazam 2 is going to be called Shazam: Fury of the Gods. But one amusing note is that Sinbad, yes, that Sinbad, the comedian, it has a role in the movie, which is a pretty. There's a running joke about that, because having to do with Sinbad doing a movie where he was a genie and misconstrued into something else, and also has nothing to do with the Kazam movie that Shaq did, but who also played a genie that also gets conflated with each other. But so yeah, there we go. It's a one big meta joke. Haha. But hey, there you go. Sinbad's in a movie, or in another movie. That's not Jingle All the Way. If y'all know that one, you had to be of a certain vintage to know that one, I suppose. Anyway, next up.
All right, so prolific filmmaker Reginald Hudlin has confirmed that a live-action Static Shock movie is in development. The electrifying, with the puns, combatant Static Shock hails from its eponymous publications by Milestone Comics. Milestone Media was founded by a group of African-American artists, including Dwayne McDuffie, Dennis Cowan, Michael Davis, and Derek T. Dingle, in 1993, with the mandate of addressing the underrepresentation of racial minorities in superhero franchises. The company's comics were published and distributed by DC, and of them all, one title in particular, Static Shock, was the most successful. It spawned a cartoon. That's I think that's one of the lasting legacies of it.
Pretty much, and Static Shock has shown up on like Young Justice and Justice League also. But yeah, definitely having that Static Shock cartoon is still, which is on DC Universe, and probably will end up on HBO Max at some point. Who even knows? But yeah, Static Shock was meant a lot to a bunch of folks, including myself. So cool. Live action Static Shock movie. They better get Phil Lamar for that, for something. That's all I'm saying. Next up, Zack Snyder's Justice League trailer is officially here, having been leaked before DC FanDome happened. But we finally get the trailer for the Snyder Cut. And as I've said before, there is no way that he had all of this worked out. Like, yeah, sure, some of that stuff was in post-production and all that, but everything that was shown in the trailer, personally, like, there's no way he had all his all of that worked out during the course of his dealings with the Justice League movie, because there was a lot in there. Like, what doesn't matter whether it was done or not. That has nothing to do with it. I feel like he's added some stuff that like, oh well, now I got time to do it. I can just add the stuff. I don't know. Maybe he did have all of the stuff later, but it just seems like it pretty much. And a couple of things, it seemed like he also gave away the whole movie. Now, granted, we've seen the movie already, a version of the movie already, but there's a lot in this thing. Anyway, did you watch this?
Yeah, I did. Lots of edges, lots of metal. It's very Zack Snyder, waiting for someone to yell out, "This is Sparta!"
Yeah,
I mean, I have to say it. I mean, I actually have a clip of this if I could just find it. Bear with, brother. It's not a sound effect that I get to break out all the time. Oh, here we go.
This is Sparta!
I half expected to hear that during the trailer.
Yeah, and it's fine because that movie in itself was also had some problematic things with it. But anyway, so yeah, it's out there. The Snyder Cut trailer is out there, and you pretty much, I feel like everything is being shown in the movie, which that's probably a problem in itself, because like leave something to the imagination. But yeah, it's out there, folks. It's still a thing that's happening despite it not needing to. Next up,
God forbid Roddykat tries to condense these two stories, because he would rather have me talk about Zack Snyder's Justice League cut as well.
I love the torture.
What's that?
I love the torture.
Right. One of the chief differences between the original Justice League and the forthcoming Snyder Cut is the orientation towards an adult demographic, quote unquote. This, according to Zack Snyder himself. What would he know about addressing an adult demographic? During Saturday's DC fan, shots fired, people, shots fired. During DC's FanDome on Saturday, Snyder released the trailer for his cut of the movie, and which makes changes from the 2017 release he didn't get to see through to the end. This led to some speculation about what the differences will be between the original Justice League and the much hyped Snyder Cut coming to HBO Max in 2021. So, yeah, just more adult oriented. So, come on.
Let's put some air quotes on that, because I kind of wonder. Like adult, quote unquote. Like, okay, just get out your own ass. Anyway, yeah. It is what it is. New Batman movie will let you personally kill Robin. So this is old news, but I just saw this trailer like recently. Apparently they are doing Death in the Family as a animated movie. I don't know when it's coming out, but not only is it coming out, but and I don't know, they mentioned Black Mirror, Bandersnatch, and whatever, but let's face it, choose your own adventure stuff has been going on way long for that. However, in this media, sure, whatever. So just like those aforementioned things, this movie is going to let you do the same thing that the original Death in the Family storyline did, and that's choose whether Robin lives or dies, amongst other things, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to have interactive elements and a branching storyline. There's a Minecraft thing that also did that, but that's all. Telltale Games have been doing this for a couple of years, for years now, folks. So this is nothing new one way or another. But in this medium, like I said, things like this kind of still get place, which is still cool, by the way. I don't want to give it short shrift. Like a lot of people talked about the Black Mirror episode. And there's a couple other things on Netflix that's got the interactive elements that are kind of pretty cool. I personally love choose your own adventure stuff, so I'm not saying I'm not going to watch this and get a kick out of doing the things, but it's a thing. But it also says that the short film will also reunite much of the voice cast of Batman Under the Red Hood, one of WDB Animation's best received DC animated films, which just celebrated its 10-year anniversary. I don't remember it being that celebrated, but all right, if you say so. The trailer hints at some major deviations from the DC canon, depending on those choices, including Jason in his traditional role as the resurrected villain, the Red Hood, also as Red Robin, and as a version of Hush. So there you go, folks. Whenever that comes out, it'll be there. Next up,
On Monday, Deadline reported that a new Powerpuff Girls show is in the works at the CW. But unlike the original cartoon, the new series will be live action and follow Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup through their 20s. The series comes from Greg Berlanti, of course, co-creator of the Arrowverse shows at the CW, Diablo Cody, who wrote Juno, and Heather Regnier, who's a writer of Veronica Mars, will write for the show. Okay.
yeah, this is also coming off the fact that I think there's a currently running Powerpuff Girls show, which is also, and that's also the original version that's also still out there for people to watch. Also, I don't know if we need this. As there's articles about that also. I'm not sure if we need this, but sure, it's gonna happen one way or the other, and Berlanti's gonna get that money. Star Trek, last but not least, in the cinematic corner, Star Trek Discovery, One Day at a Time, to air on CBS this fall as networks pushes originals. So yes, the CBS All Access show, Star Trek Discovery, and also the Netflix show One Day at a Time are both actually going to see some actual network time. Not unlike stuff that's going on with the CW, coincidentally. Not coincidentally, because they're all whatever. But so yeah, and some other stuff. But those two of note in the comic book corner, or at least the one in the as far as Star Trek is concerned, is going to see going to see some network play. Next up, we are going into the comic book news.
We have some spillover.
Well, yeah, that was the Star Trek one.
No, or is this comic book stuff?
That's comic book stuff, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Okay. All right, so we're going to transition into comic book news.
Nicely done. I wish we had some actual news on that front. But beat the new Marvel Mutant Weirdo and X-Men 11 preview. We've already talked about X-Men 11, so we don't necessarily need to go over that. But Arakko shows up in the beginning of the thing, and yes. Next. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. It's the Summoner from the Sword Bearers of Arakko. Excuse me. Let me get that right. Next up.
Apparently, the X-Men shattered. God.
I don't think
Marvel's
this counts.
Correction record. This is just not a real article.
It kind of isn't, but I put it in here just to say that, because it's not really. Well, go into it. We'll get into it.
Yeah, I mean, apparently, and this is referring to Marauders. Was it number 11? I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
From last week or the week before, talking about how many times it took to resurrect Kate Pryde after her death. Essentially, after 18 attempts. Shadowcat may have just broken a Marvel record to become the character with the most resurrections. I mean,
except that that's not, because she only been actually resurrected once. There have been 18 attempts, which doesn't count.
Right.
So CBR has been doing some now. Caveat: we know somebody who works for CBR, and this has nothing to do with them or that. But look, we can talk about it because we're not, just because we know somebody who works for them doesn't mean we have to. We're ingrained to them, but. CBR has been doing some weird writings lately. There's been a whole lot of stuff about the anatomies of comic book characters. I don't know if you've seen those articles.
No, I haven't. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I didn't read any of them myself, but I just noticed they were out there. I'm like, what is going on, CPR? So what are you even doing? Anyway, so yeah, this is like 87 said. This is kind of a non-article and not necessarily. I guess not technically true because, 18 attempts don't necessarily make an actual resurrection. Mm-hmm. Unless Hickman or somebody says that it does, but even then, I still would go against it. Next up, a very huge Storm story coming in 2021 from the X-Men line. Storm of the X-Men may be facing down some big developments in the coming months, starting with September 16th giant-size X-Men Storm #1 from Hickman and Russell Dauterman. And now, X-Men line editor Jordan D. White is opening up about what fans of the mutant mistress of the weather can expect as Storm Saga ramps up. There is a lot going on with Storm. First off, I don't want to spoil anything from Giant Size X-Men the Storm #1, so that'll be the place you should check out. And then the rest of this is pretty much going on that and what Storm's dealing with, and also bringing up Marauders #13, in which Storm's going to have a big moment in. So there we go. Some stuff coming up for Storm. I'm with it. Next up.
All right, next up is the X-Men line's first crossover of the Dawn of X era is about to kick off in 10 of Swords, X of Swords, creation #1 by writer Jonathan Hickman and artist Pepe Larraz, which provides some backstory and lead up for the tarot-themed sword-wielding X-Men event. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, you can follow this article over at Newsarama. Their X-Men group editor Jordan D. White talks about what's ahead.
Yeah, we're assuming all of this came out in the one interview that just broke up into content. Next up, boop. Captain Marvel's Cosmic Avengers show how powerful they really are, and this is a spoiler for Captain Marvel 19, which I think you read. Did you not?
I did.
And it says here, in Kelly Thompson and Corey Smith's Captain Marvel #20, Carol Danvers' new Cosmic Adventures go on a search for answers and show how powerful they really are. So yeah, amidst the Empire event, Carol Danvers was given a new role by Hulkling, the new Emperor of the Kree Skull Alliance. After being given Ronan the Accuser's hammer, or some version of it, the universal weapon, I guess it is his, Carol was named the new Kree Supreme Accuser. Her first mission was to travel to a planet where that was once a home city, to where both Kree Skrulls lived in harmony, and things happen over there. And she also takes some folks with her, including, was that War Machine? And I don't know who this other person is. Oh, Spider-Woman and Hazmat.
Yes, and Hazmat.
Yes. And also has something to do with her Hepsis to L'Oreal, because she's worth it. Next up.
There is a spoiler alert. This is a spoiler alert here for what happened in Thor #6. There is a vision, a terrifying vision of the Marvel Universe's future in Thor #6. Thor sees a new villainous wielder for Mjolnir, now fitted with cosmic upgrades to make it even more powerful. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert for anyone who's not reading Thor. So I guess it's supposed to be Thanos that we're looking at, who's wielding Mjolnir with the Infinity Stones embedded within Mjolnir. So that's pretty kind of scary. That's pretty kind of scary. That's pretty scary.
Pretty much.
So, we'll see where this story goes. And according to PCN_Dirt, who let us know today that they are quickly coming out with a second printing of this book with a variant cover. Which implies that this is somewhat important. I guess people have really ordered heavy. My speculation is that this is driven by, no pun intended, speculators who think that Cates is going to be churning out some more new characters and first appearances of characters, and make some money off that, the way they did with some of the Black, whatchamacallit, what's the Black King's name? I forget, from Venom.
No,
right. And Cosmic Ghost Rider. So we'll see how that goes in the pages of Thor.
Sure. New text. So we kind of sort of talked about this already, but I don't know why.
Yeah, we talked about it when it was supposed to be released.
Right. So new Taskmaster title kills Maria Hill and rocks the Marvel espionage world to its core, except for, I believe there's a spoiler in there that would go against that, which I think we actually speculated then.
Yep.
But obviously, the Text Master is going to be in the Black Widow movie, so therefore they're giving a book to kind of give him some shine before then. That's you hate to be cynical about it, but that's actually what it is. But it says here, Maria Hill is dead, and the Taskmaster appears to be responsible. But did he really commit the crime? That's the question at the heart of writer Jed McKay and artist Alessandro Vidi's upcoming Taskmaster miniseries, limited series that pits the Skullface mercenary against Marvel's espionage community with life or death stakes. Except for probably not really. But Taskmaster has his work cut out for him with Coulson and the Squadron Supreme. Hey, remember them folks? White Fox and more gunning for him as he tries to solve the mystery of a murder he may or may not have committed. So yeah, that's the thing that's coming. Next up.
All right. Star Wars confirms. I love it. Yoda did turn to the dark side and almost became the most powerful Sith Lord. Turn to the dark side, I did. For just the briefest of moments, the entire Star Wars universe came perilously close to possible annihilation by the dark side of the Force, but not by Emperor Palpatine or even Darth Vader himself. This would have come at the hands of someone even more powerful and unexpected, Yoda. Yoda's clash with the dark side is revealed in 2004's Star Wars Yoda Dark Rendezvous, which is now a part of the expanded universe and thus non-canonical. Okay. So what's the point of this if this is non-canonical? Are they going to bring it back?
It's possible, but I think I think they just brought it up just to bring it up. I don't know if there's any actual reason to bring this up at this, or think they're going to bring this up as, or maybe I guess there's speculation here. Something about the Mandalorian and the Baby Yoda might have something to do with it. I don't.
Got
know.
it.
Who knows? Probably nothing. Darth Vader's ultimate defense was defeated by spoiler. So yeah, this is from Darth Vader number 4, which we talked about last week or week before last. I can't remember which one it is at this point. But basically, he had the high ground, and it didn't actually go the way that it should have. Thanks to some quick thinking by the Sabi and the folks there. So yeah, there you go. Didn't necessarily work out for him. Next up.
Star Wars. Hasbro reveals new Rogue One and Jedi Fallen Order figures. These collectibles will be hitting stores in fall 2020. The figures cater to Star Wars fans of all tastes, whether you prefer the classic 3 3/4 inch line, the modern Black Series line, or even full-size replicas. Okay. There is a slideshow gallery in the article featuring everything Hasbro revealed during its latest Fan First Friday livestream.
I will take this time to note that both Agent 70 and I got the last of our 2 figures that we have. He has his Ahsoka, which I didn't get, and I have my Hera. I would show it to you, but my camera's acting up, and I'm not messing with it right now because I'll probably have to get off Skype. So,
yeah. I was about to say mine's downstairs. I don't feel like going downstairs.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But yeah, hey, that's the thing, folks. Hasbro Star Wars reveals new Cad Bane Black Series figure available now in Europe and in the US on October the 1st. So yeah, this is a Cad Bane figure from you know him from the Clone Wars, bounty hunter. You know the guy. Also comes with a little droid friend whose name is escaping me at the moment. Todo, or Toto, or Tudu. I guess they call him Toto. But it looks like to do. Anyway, it's a 2-pack, and they come together, and it'll be for X amount of money and coming to the U.S. in October. I might actually get one of these if I can. Next up.
All right. What are we up to? Classic Star Wars?
Mm-hmm.
Classic Star Wars games get new collector's editions available to pre-order soon. Fans of old school Star Wars games will want to keep close tabs on limited run games tomorrow or this week. The video game distributor will be selling 2 waves of pre-orders for standard and collector's editions of Star Wars X-Wing, wow, and Star Wars TIE Fighter for PC. The first batch goes live. Blah, blah, blah. We've already missed those dates. It's unclear how much the standard physical editions cost, but each of the very cool collector's editions is $65. Okay. I
Yeah,
like playing those games back in the day.
yeah, those are good games, and that Star Wars Squadrons game is pretty much a spiritual successor of it. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, we did definitely miss it, and that $65 version definitely got sold out by now, because
Yeah.
I think the day that it happened, and I checked the listing, it was gone, and I think they still like had, yeah, all of them are gone now. So if you can see here, oh wait, is this it? So if you're watching the video, you can see what they had to offer, and they basically had, boxes that look like the old Kenner Star Wars boxes with the figures in them.
Mhm.
So all the stuff that looks like that, and they Limited Runs does some pretty good stuff. So you see a lot of stuff that looks like the pegboard figure stuff. It's cool, but all of it sold out at this point, including the big stuff with that had all of it. So I mean, you can still get the games digitally somewhere. So especially on GOG, if you're so inclined. But if you like physical copies of stuff, Limited Run and does a lot of runs of things. So sorry you missed it. Next up, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is heavily discounted for PC. So for anyone who cared to play that game and hasn't by now, I believe it is still like $30 or something. Yeah, $30 on Steam. I think it's still that price now. I'm not sure. Nope, it went back up, so you missed that too. So this is a non. This is also a non-article. So never mind, folks. It's gone. Next up.
All right. In more video game news, um, the Miles Morales Spider-Man game might just have the weirdest, coolest take on Spider-Sense yet. So apparently, long story short, um, technically in this game, Miles doesn't have Spider-Sense. The player does. Sony revealed a few more tiny details about the upcoming PlayStation 5, specifically its fancy schmancy new controller, the PlayStation DualSense. Aside from looking like a banana from outer space, is that you or the article?
That's the article.
That's the article.
I mean,
The
PlayStation
DualSense-
controller kind of always has looked like that.
All right, the DualSense has a bunch of features built in to make playing games with it a more involved experience. Some of which were detailed by PlayStation, including this haptic feedback technology that lets developers program which part of the controller vibrates and with what intensity to match the action going on in the game. Okay.
Yeah, specifically the PS3 controller was definitely kind of like a boomerang. Some officially called it the batarang, but also could look like a banana. But so yeah, so basically it looks like the Spider Sense and stuff is going to be partially in the controller, which I guess could be kind of neat. Yeah. Next up, another hero is joining Marvel's Avengers post-launch, which I come to find out that Marvel's Avengers is not actually called War Table, but War Table is the series of live streams that they've been doing. So that was my fault for misconstruing that. Regardless, I think Hawkeye is the next one out the slate, which has been rumored in the past, and I think I'm pretty sure we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
But it says here that let's see. Spider-Man was announced as a PS4 exclusive, PS4, PS5 exclusive, which is true. It was also reported that Hawkeye would join the Avengers in a free post-game launch update in a version of the character that is from Fraction and Aha's run, which we've also talked about. But Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix has given no clues as to what hero will join the impressive cast of heroes. It looks like the files from the beta point to either She-Hulk and or Kate Bishop as DLC characters, which wouldn't be surprised about either one of those, specifically the Kate Bishop, because the Hawkeye's already in it.
Mm-hmm.
So
And also, she's got a TV. She's going to be on TV at some point, or at least on Disney Plus.
that is also true. But there's another War Table that's coming up right before the game officially launches on September 4th, which I guess we'll find out who the person actually will be. Next up.
Alrighty, next up, Fortnite's newest season has Epic and Marvel teaming up to bring some of the biggest heroes and villains from the Marvel Universe to the Fortnite Island to fight in the Nexus War.
So stupid.
What's that?
So stupid.
I mean,
Yeah,
so unlike
that is true.
Unlike most Fortnite seasons, This one comes with backstory for the entire theme and season. Galactus, the Devourer of Worlds, and one of the Marvel Universe's most powerful villains, is heading to the Fortnite Island intent on consuming it. Just the island? That's just a snack. And
Right.
Thor has gathered a team of heroes and villains to stop him. This is where the season's launch trailer picks up, introducing us to each of the Marvel characters that will be joining Fortnite this season. Okay.
And of course, with a little bit of synergy becomes uh, the aforementioned, at least to Agent 70 before the show, the Fortnite times Marvel crossover issue that you can find at Comixology right now, or it's probably on Comics Marvel Unlimited also. But it's also free, so you can check that out if you so choose. And they even got different. They really was like, hey, if you want to read this book, we got flavors of languages for you to read. So, because they really want folks to read this, apparently. But yeah, that's the thing. Next up, though, Seagate and Marvel team up to put out some officially licensed Marvel Avengers limited edition game drives for PS4. So it's basically external drives with Marvel characters on it. That you can, if you want to, sign up and get for your own self. Sure, go for it. It's 2 terabytes. Says holds over 50 games. That's give or take, because 2 terabytes can go either way with games, and compatible with PS4 and 5.
Next up, while it has been a few years, there is now a new Batman game on the way. At the DC FanDome event, we got our first look at the long-rumored Gotham Knights, which looks to channel the spirit of the beloved Arkham games. The new title will be launching in 2021. Gameplay footage from the game was shown at FanDome. The new game is being developed by WB Games Montreal, while the Arkham series was started by Rocksteady studio, Steady Rockin' All Night Long. The Montreal studio picked up the series with 2013's Arkham Origins. I did see the trailer for this. It's interesting. It has an interesting premise.
Yeah.
Uh,
We will get to part of that in a little bit, but yeah, it does definitely looks good. I'm looking forward to this game because it looks good. Anyway, I was gonna say take this next one.
All right, WB Montreal revealed the first look at Gotham Knights. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry. As part of the much anticipated, it's late, folks, anticipated DC FanDome, and it did not disappoint. The studio revealed not only the first gameplay footage of the game, but also who the heroes would be facing, which turned out to be the Court of Owl. The Court of Owl. I want to say the Cult of Owls.
I mean, kinda.
Right. The Court of Owls, though there may be more to it than that. They also revealed the playable heroes that you can control in the game. That's my understanding is that it's Nightwing, Robin, Batgirl, and the Red Hood.
That is correct. Because Batman's dead. Also, I think there was some. Mr. Freeze also showed up in that trailer, so there'll probably be. So not only is it the Court of Owls, but there's probably going to be some other villains, like Mr. Freeze. And speaking of, actually, take this next one, please.
You're killing me with this video game stuff. It's been a long time coming, but after many rumors and teases, the next Batman video game was revealed, as I said earlier, Gotham Knights. It turns out that the voice behind Mr. Negative in the Spider-Man PlayStation game is playing Gotham Knights Red Hood. What's his name?
It's Stephen O. Young.
Thank you, Stephen O. Young.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, cool. So next up, I will take these next three because we're still in the video game corner at this point. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League will be 4-player co-op. So Suicide Kill the Justice League is another game that was announced at DC FanDome. And also another good-looking game. This particular one is being done by the aforementioned Rocksteady Games of the Arkham series fame. and it's like it says, it's going to be 4-player co-ops, and I believe the characters there are Harley Quinn, Captain Boomerang, but it's Boomerang's son, the one with the speed. Bloodshot and King Shark, I believe, were all in that the trailer. It's a good looking trailer. You should check it out.
I watched it. It's good. It's very movie-esque, which is really,
Yes, that is also that.
It's really kind of disconcerting watching it and thinking that it's actually possibly an animated film. Obviously, it's an animated short for the video game, but still, it's pretty, it's pretty well done and seems very cinematic.
Yeah, and if the title of the game did not evoke anything, yes, the bad guys of the game are the Justice League, who looks like they've seemingly been taken over by
Brainiac.
Thank you. I don't know why I was having trouble thinking of that name. So yeah, check that trailer out. It's pretty good. But next up, Suicide Squad killed the Justice League set in Batman Arkham universe, which some people have a problem with for some strange reason, but it doesn't make any kind of difference because Batman is dead in that Gotham Knights game. So it shouldn't matter whether it's set in the same universe or not. And also multiverse, people, come on. Anyway, so apparently the Suicide Squad game is in the Arkham universe, whereas the Gotham Knights game is not.
Right, it's something completely different.
Right, and there's also partially because one, Rocksteady had already been trying to get away from doing Batman games, and this Suicide Squad game had been rumored for a good while, including a Superman game. So I guess the two kind of came together. Now that I think about it, but so this is them kind of going away from the Batman thing, but staying in the same universe. Whereas WB is like, no, we want more money, so we want another Batman game, and that's where pretty much Arkham Knight and a couple other side games came from that Rocksteady didn't do, and this Gotham Knights game. In tandem. But hey, like I said, Gotham Knights looks pretty good. Next up, though, WWE's Samoa Joe voices King Shark in the Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League game. So there you go for you wrestling fans. Samoa Joe, also a big, if I'm not mistaken, also a video gamer in his own right, along with Xavier Woods, from what I understand. So. But yeah, there you go. Samoa Joe, King Shark. Run with it.
All right.
Next up.
So, mild spoiler alert, we are back in the comic book corner. In The Flash number 759, Barry Allen is out of commission, and Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash, is in control of his body. This has caused some significant problems for the Flash family, who don't know what's going on. So,
weirdly, I mean, granted, that's nothing new under the sun, but it's like when I first saw that, and I was like, okay, so it's like that Spider-Man storyline where Superior before Superior came into being, but not really.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, yes, kind of really.
Right. Okay, so what is the status of a classic DC Speedster? I have to open the article.
So apparently, let's see. Barry Allen is in college commission. Bart Allen runs into the Flash and realizes that's not him. That is not Barry, and sets out to confront him, and telling everybody else about it. Barry Allen is still within his own mind, I guess, or trying to find.
It's about Johnny Quick.
Right, basically, and meets up with Jesse Quick and Max Mercury's. Well, yeah, Jesse Quick and Max Mercury. And yeah, apparently something happened to Jesse Quick, or to Johnny Quick rather, and gets found out in the course of this.
Okay.
Next up, Legion of Superheroes confirms, spoiler, is Superman's descendant. So basically, this is a spoiler for Legion of Superheroes number 8, which is pretty much already out. And apparently, Mon-El is descendant from John Kent's Superboy or Superman, if I read that right. So that's a retcon. And Yeah, there you go. You're welcome.
Yeah, I was about to say Mon-El's supposed to be like a wasn't he a Daxamite?
He's a Dactylite, classically. I mean, that doesn't mean that it still couldn't be the case somehow, but but yeah.
Right.
I mean, because Kryptonians and Daxamites are pretty much cousins anyway, so something happened. Regardless, yeah. So he's officially which means that he's officially part of the Superman lineage thanks to Bendis is writing his book. So there you go. You can blame Bendis for that. Next up,
talk about trying to streamline things, huh?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right.
I don't know if it was necessary.
Right. So apparently, the Red Hood Outlaw era has officially is going to officially come to an end this November, as a new creative team on the book prepares to take over the solo adventures of Jason Todd for November's Red Hood, simply titled Red Hood number 51. It's written by Sean Martinborough and illustrated by Tony Akins. And it's the beginning of a new era for the Red Hood. And no disrespect to these creators, but
Who?
Akins. Yeah, I don't know either. Moving right along. Batman and Wonder Woman suit up for cold weather in endless winter. So Batman and Wonder Woman are the stars of the new teasers for DC's upcoming December 2020 debuting stupid auto-playing thing. DC's upcoming December 2020 debuting event, Endless Winter. These two full-page teasers appear in this week's DC Connect, which I can't find to download, by the way. DC's monthly catalog for retailers to order. Okay, so I guess they must have put them out to everybody else like later or something, because, yeah. Anyway, the appearance of Batman and Wonder Woman seemed to corroborate what Newsarama has reported previously. Endless Winter is a Justice League-centric event. So, sure. Next up.
screenwriter John Ridley, who's written 12 Years a Slave, Gorilla, and American Crime, and artist Nick Darrington, will be the creative team for a new 4-issue Batman limited series to launch in January 2021. The new series will coexist with the current Batman series by James Tynion IV and Jorge Jimenez. DC announced the news during its DC FanDome, where Ridley joined DC publisher and chief creative officer, that is, Jim Lee, on the legacy of the Bat panel. During the panel, Ridley commented, "I think it's a pretty safe bet that if I'm writing Batman, it's probably a little better than a 40% chance he's going to be a person of color." He also stated that his series would center on the family of Lucius Fox, the business manager of Wayne Enterprises, who is black. Ridley has written several series for DC, although this will be his first time writing a Batman story. So, my understanding, this is supposed to be Luke Fox,
right,
possibly taking over the role of Batman at some point, either now or in the future.
Right. What was his name previously? Was it Black Bat? No, it wasn't Black Bat. What was his
Wing? He was Batwing at one point.
Yes. Okay, there we go. Because I was like, it couldn't be Batwing because that's Nightwing, but yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
He took the name Batwing, where he was kind of flying a Batman Beyond type suit.
Right. So there you go. There's that. But another big news, and going back to something that we talked about in the cinematic news, Milestone returns to DC Comics scheduled with a heavy digital component. So Milestone, the pioneering black-owned comics imprint that created a universe of black superheroes, including Static Shock, is coming back with new series featuring their original characters. DC, which published Milestone Comics under an agreement with the company, made the announcement during this DC FanDome event on August 21st. And I think that was probably after I had checked out of DC FanDome, probably at that Legacy of the Bat concert thing. But I think that stuff is still out there regardless. Milestone partner and producer Reggie Hudlin, co-founder Dennis Cowan, and Static Shock voice actor Phil Lamar joined DC publisher and chief creative officer Jim Lee for the panel. Milestone will kick things off in February 2021 with a new Static Shock series that will be published digitally. Boo. In addition, Hudlin will team up with artist Kyle Baker to create an original Static Shock graphic novel, and Hudlin will also write a new Icon and Rocket series with art by Cowan. DC will also publish older Milestone comics digitally. Boo again. And also during the September 12th FanDome event, because yes, there is another one, they will offer a 17-page digital sampler, Milestone Returns, for free for 24 hours. The sampler, written by Hudlin and Greg Pak, will be a primer on the original Milestone characters, including Static Shock, Icon, Rocket, and Duo. Cowan and Chris Sotomayor will do the cover, and contributing artists will include Cowan, Jim Lee, Ryan Benjamin, Coy Pham, Scott Hanna, Bill Sienkiewicz, Don Ho, not that Don Ho, Alex Sinclair, and Darren Bennett. And during the same 24-hour period, DC will offer several older Milestone titles digitally for free also, including Static Shocks 1 and 2, Zombie 1 and 2, Hardware, The Man in the Machine, Icon, and two versions of Icon. So look out for that September 12th. And we will probably be talking about it around that time, I would imagine. So cool that Milestone's coming back. Kind of wish they did do some physical though.
What I was going to add to that is, if enough people raise a stink about it, they probably will publish it.
Hopefully,
because it's essentially what happened with the pandemic books.
I think that's slightly different, but yes, you're probably right.
I mean, of course it's different, but in the sense that they had initially not planned on putting out paper copies of these comics, instead would just put out digital and then follow up with including these copies in the future trade paperbacks of that, of whichever series. They just relented ultimately. I think if enough people make us think about not having these books in paper form, I think they will eventually get published.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see if that happens. I hadn't really seen too much of that, and and usually as it goes, the people who probably had an issue with the same people are not going to be all up in arms about this as they did with the other thing, I suspect, for reasons. I'm hoping I'm wrong about that, but it's just kind of the way the world works, especially in comics. So yeah, if you're upset about that, make us think. No, don't be stupid about it, but just kind of say, hey, DC, what's up with this?
Exactly.
But last but not least, because there is another story, and the only reason why I'm putting this in here because I don't want to put it in next week. Going back to the cinematic version, Zack Snyder reveals HBO Max will release Justice League as 4 episodes.
No.
So the Snyder cut is going to be cut in 4, which is probably going to be metered out like by a week or something if they're doing this. So it says a single cut of the 4 episodes will then. Oh wait, okay, no. So at DC's DC FanDome, the Snyder cut of Justice League's panel, Snyder revealed that HBO Max will split the release of his cut into 4 one-hour episodes. A single cut of the 4 episodes will then later be released. That's so basically, if I'm reading this right, they're gonna be like, okay, you're gonna get the Snyder cut, but you're getting it in pieces first, right. and then the movie put together is gonna get put. It's gonna, as a whole, is gonna get put out. That's some funny shit. That's way funnier than I saw when I looked at this. That's amazingly and terrible. But you know what? They wanted this, so good on them for this.
Right.
I hope the people who wanted this are severely mad, and I hope they stay mad.
That's funny.
Anyway, it's still coming out, so they still got what they want, so it doesn't really matter. Which means if it's 4, so that means the Snyder cut is 4 hours, though. Yeah, I know, but that's freaking. But then again, if you saw that trailer, that makes sense because that's just ridiculous. Anyway, we are at the end of the news, folks, for tonight. We got one more ad read before we bounce out of here.
Our last ad read of the night is for Blue Apron. Blue Apron's meal delivery service has fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron, always shipped free right to your home. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. So place your first order with $30 off, and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today.
And as I transition to a shot of Agent 70, a close-up of Agent 70 because my shot's still not working. Thank you, folks, for coming out tonight. It's been a blast, as always. We will be back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Probably 9:30 on Thursday nights on the Click Nation's YouTube channel. But until then, I am Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat at that on Twitter. Excuse me. You can also find me at NewsNerd on Twitter. You can also find me at CBCaps on Instagram. Agent_70. You can find on Twitter and Instagram. Doing it for the gram.
Check out my latest curated Marvel Legends displays on Insta.
Indeed, doing it for the gram. And by the way, the bottom shot, so the shot you're seeing, folks, if you're watching the video, is the big shot is him, obviously, but the little shot is weirdly his mural over in the corner. I don't know why. So it's got a little shot of your corner over your shoulder a little bit. So that's kind of a funky effect. Anyway, PC_Dirt on Twitter, PopCultureNet on Twitter, PopCultureNetwork.com, and all those umbrella sites there. And also Bytes, where he's doing some stuff under Comic Reviews, No Vowels. So can't be on the show, but he's got time for his own. Let me stop picking on him. I'm gonna stop that. That's not nice. Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, the Osiris that is ish. The Click Nation also on Twitter, CB Cron on Twitter, which is of course the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. TheClickNation.com, that's DKLIQNETION, all one word, and of course Comic Book Resources, where he's writing his face off. Again, folks, we will be back next week, but you will find, until then, you can find this here podcast on the Cold Slither Podcast Network, CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us at your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the Cold Slither Podcast Network SoundCloud page. Yep, we'll be back. More comics, more news, more shenanigans. Probably no more Tories, because I think we pretty much got everything we were going to get at this point.
Oh
wait, that's right. You still got something. That's right. You still going to have something.
There's going to be some Marvel Legends coming over the next couple months.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, no, they are coming. Again, I hate to keep using the term because it's overused. Fast and Furious. Ha ha.
Yes, one of these days I will watch 8. But yes, until then, folks, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
I love it when a plan comes together.